Peace and welcome to Ceremony, Devotion and Action. I'm your host, Planting Seeds with Bree. Here we believe every word, thought, action, and intention is an offering of devotion. In this space, you can find me having open, honest, and raw conversations with people who have walked into the fire of change only to be reborn anew. Individuals who live their lives out loud and on purpose. Peace and welcome to Ceremony, Devotion and Action. I'm your host, Planting Seeds with Bree, and today I'm here with Anna Marie. Thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited to interview you. It's been like, I feel like last thing I was like, oh, I want to interview her, but like things didn't happen, but they worked out in the way they needed to because we're here now. Mm-hmm. And so I've kind of just like admired you from like your social media. Like there's this thing that I get from you, like this freedom, and it shows in your movements. It shows in your writings. It shows in so many ways, like the colors that you wear, all these different things, right? They hold a language. So enough of that. I just have to like, I call it like Corey, like loving up on the person I'm talking to, because, you know, we're all vessels. So we just have to like remind each other and say, hey, like, you're amazing. I want to know more. Let's chat.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes. So we're going to get started with just a few breaths of alignment. So if that feels good to anyone listening, you can definitely join us, or you can take whatever feels good in your body right now, just to kind of bring you into the moment. So if you want to find a comfortable seat and just lower your eyes if it feels good. One palm can be on the center of your chest and the other palm on your belly. And we'll just start by taking a few deep breaths. On each inhale, feel for growing tall through your spine, opening the left and right shoulders, and growing tall through the crown of the head. On the exhale, see if you can maintain the space you've just created in the body. Bringing your awareness to the rise and fall of your chest. Notice if there's any clenching or gripping in the toes, in the quads, in the hips, in the shoulders, in the fingertips, or in the jaw. And simply feel for softening throughout the body. And when you're ready, whenever it feels good, you can softly open your eyes. Wonderful. So hopefully we're like just ready to receive and give, and I'm ready to jump into this conversation.
All right, here we go.
Yes, let's go. So Anna Marie is an artist, yogi, and free spirit. She has many passions that are all rooted in her free to be mentality. Ultimately, she is here to simply be herself and to shine brightly. I love that. I feel like there's so many things to kind of jump into, But I want to go ahead and first ask you this first question. Here on Ceremony, we believe every word, thought, action, and intention is an offering of devotion. So right now in your life, what does devotion look and feel like for you?
Devotion for me, it starts with the simplest things. Looking outside my window right now, I see the rain falling, and it's appreciation for every season that we are experiencing in our life, and it's having gratitude for every moment that we're experiencing. Doing my best not to label things as bad or good, but just to be aware and present to it all and to enjoy the experiences. I feel that Spirit is calling for us to have more pleasure in our lives. And so devotion is, for me, being here and talking to you and fully embodying my essence. That's how I bring devotion, because I know that once I'm in that space, that is a prayer that is being out to the world, and that is also affecting everybody else around me. I wake up and think about, meditating, journaling in the morning, pulling my tarot cards, oracle cards. To me, those are acts of devotion that I like to do in the morning to get myself right within myself, to sit down and to be still and to really just tune in to what's coming up for me. What am I feeling?
Yes. Yeah. I love your description of ceremony. One thing that you said was the appreciation of every season. Mm-hmm. And I feel like sometimes we forget that life is seasons, right? Mm-hmm. We have modes where we're like so productive and we're giving birth to these ideas and projects, and it feels great to be pregnant, right? It feels great to have that life growing inside of you, and then to ultimately like push it out. But we have to remember, like, you have to, after you give birth, you have to like nurture that thing and then nurture yourself. Mm-hmm. And then you have the conception phase where you're like planting those seeds. Mm-hmm. And we have to honor and respect all parts. Mm-hmm. And I find myself like, that's part of my medicine right now, is like honoring those things. So I love that you said that, like, And so I feel like with that being said, and appreciating and honoring the seasons, I think of change, right? Because change is one of those things where it's inevitable that we accept change, and we can either accept it or refuse it, but it creates like this resistance in our bodies. So one thing I've really been exploring with lately with myself is, how can I make space in my body, not just my physical body, but my mental and spiritual body for change? Mm-hmm. So what does that process of embracing change in all three of those bodies for you like manifest and look like?
Great question. I actually have been going through a lot of change recently. Just ended a relationship, and I'm getting myself ready to transition to moving to a new place, a new location. And for me, with the change of the seasons, it's spring now. There's a death process that I had to go through in order to prepare for what's to come. Letting go of this relationship, that was very painful to end. And going through the process of transformation is not always comfortable, and actually, it probably isn't ever going to be that comfortable. So allowing myself to feel what's ever coming up, whether that's anger, sadness, joy, boredom, there's these things that are percolating inside me. Lately, I've been feeling a lot of anger, and having to honor that feeling and realizing that it's just calling me to move into a new direction. Because if something isn't working for me and it's really bringing out some fire, then I'm like, okay, Spirit's like, let's take this and transmute it, and you're gonna create something else, something new. So I think it starts with really going deep into the emotional fields. So allowing yourself to express that. And for me, I'm such an artist and I like to go there. I like to do videos about it. I love to dance through those emotions. I love to speak about it, write poetry, anything that's like creative, that I don't get stuck in it for too long.
Mm-hmm.
I can like really go there and be like, oh, like I love listening to music, and I'm always listening to songs over and over again that are really like going to that emotion for me. And I'm usually like thinking of like videos of what to do with the song, how to create. And then you'll see it like on Instagram or Facebook, and but it's a great process that I've found that's very healing, because as soon as I go there, I can like release it, and let go and move on. But before I can actually get to the point where I'm like in that change, where I'm in that new chapter, I have to make sure I'm releasing the old, I have to go.
Exactly.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's that energy and motion, like you were talking about. Like sometimes when we are experiencing like these feelings and emotions, and like you said, healing is never pretty. Like, I just want people to be like really understand. Like sometimes one of my guests was saying you have to go into the cave with the bear and get destroyed, and then you understand you're the bear. Like you're destroying yourself. Death is a natural part of life. We have to embrace life and death, because those are like parts of it. Like just because you have a death doesn't mean like you forget that person. No, you venerate them. You put them on your altar. But you put these versions of yourself on this altar, and you honor those selves, knowing like, hey, young Bree, I need you, girl. Let's go do cartwheels. Let's like roll in the grass and do all the things. You know what I mean? Like, my Bree that like get somebody right. Like, the wolf is always there. So you have these parts. But I like how you said about moving the energy, like finding an outlet, because energy and motion, either you write or you dance, especially for women. I feel like dancing and hips and being sensual and embodying like your juiciness is so important. How do you feel about that? Like, because I see some of your posts and I'm like, ooh, girl, you are juicy. I love you.
Yes. There's honestly so much I can say about this topic. It really, I've fallen in love with my sensuality, and to being able to express it is a beautiful thing, and something that took a while to get to this point where I was able to share things like so openly on social media platforms, and I'm realizing just like, it's so simple. It's like, wow, like all I have to do is get up and dance and like move and shake and do my movement and feel myself. And yet it's like so hard for a lot of women these days to allow themselves to go there, to feel good in their bodies. And I've definitely gone through body shaming, had eating disorders, all that jazz. And it's just like, I had to actually heal an eating disorder, binge eating, and I ended up finding movement and dancing whenever I felt like I just wanted to eat. I was like, let me move my body, let me dance, let me feel like I am full within myself. Like I don't need to suppress the emotion with a substance. And the dancing helped to kind of uplift whatever was coming up. Now it's in my everyday practice. I'm always down to dance, and especially if I'm feeling like kind of like stuck and like sad and everything, I'm just like, okay, let me feel myself. Let me remember how awesome, how beautiful and powerful I am.
Yes.
Let me take a sexy picture of myself. Let me post it out to the world. Like let me just say yes, because I know that ultimately I'm empowering myself, and I know that I'm empowering another sister friend out there too.
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like, oh, well, who do I think I am for sharing these kind of things? And, there's people out there that, be sharing stuff, and it's like, what's your motivation behind it? What's your, real reason? And it's not for me to get like all these likes. It's not for any of that. It's genuinely because I feel that power within, and I know it's like powerful to share.
Yes. I love how you said the intention behind it. And I think we always have to remember moving with intention. It's easy to look at a picture and feel like you said, who does she think she is? Why does she think she can post this? Because she's fully embodied in herself. She's embodying her masculine and her feminine. And she's exploring those dualities. and like moving through them. And so in doing that, there's something very powerful about sharing those intimate moments, because I think a lot of us, we don't know what true vulnerability is. And so when we look at it, sometimes it scares us. It scares other people to be like, how are they so free? Why do they feel, it's really something about them. Like, why do they feel so comfortable? And it ultimately, like, this kind of goes to my next question. It like comes back, or to me, it leads back to like these contracts that we have created. And many of them aren't even ours. Like, I had a contract, I could never say no. And I looked at it and I was always saying yes. Like, someone asked me to do something, I really want to say no. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. And in my back of my mind, I'm like, why would you say this? And I complained the whole time. And I realized, my mom has a contract of never saying no. I made her contract my reality. And so I've had to like shift through all of these beliefs that I thought were mine, and like, no, rewrite them, toss them out, and move on. And that has been so, I think it's been impactful and beneficial for me on my healing journey. So what are some contracts that you have ripped up in the past, or even that you're reevaluating now?
Yeah, I would definitely say the people-pleasing one has been the big one for me as well. I think it is for a lot of women.
Yes.
You know, we want to give, and we're so good at that. We're so nurturing, and we don't want to say no. But I definitely, let myself kind of get taken advantage of, getting bulldozed over by people that their masculine was crazy, intense, and their boundaries are great. My boundaries were bad.
That part, like, your boundaries are great.
Yeah,
I just have none. So I'm just like, I'm a doormat at this point. So I'm just like, and then you get mad, and then you're just like, then you explode, and people are like,
why you? Yeah.
Like, why are you mad though? Like, you don't understand. They're like, no, bitch, because you didn't voice and say what you needed.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. But it's hard because, like, I've done it before where I've said what I needed and I've gotten attacked for it. So it's challenging, and it's just a lot of self-love, and knowing that if people are going to come at you like that, and family members have done that too. So it's like, okay, well, of course you want all unconditional love from your family, but it's just not always going to be like that. And you have to really love in yourself to know that whatever decision you make is the best choice for yourself. And I've had people abandon me, and that's been always been a really hard thing for me to heal, is abandonment. But that is the way of life. Like, people come, people go, but you got to stay true to yourself and know that, you know what's best for you, and
exactly.
So if they're asking you to do something that you aren't comfortable with, then they aren't really true to you. Like, they aren't in alignment with themselves. So it's like, you got to watch out for that kind of thing. And that's kind of why I took all my hair off again. I needed a reset, because I was like, I really needed to embody more of my masculine again, where I was like, I gotta get better with these boundaries. I gotta feel like I can say no. I gotta walk away. I gotta just be like, I'm cool by myself. So it's not an easy task, and that's definitely something that a thing that I've been rewriting within myself. I'm like, okay, like, where is it that it said that I needed to be friends with everybody? Like, why?
That part. Please say that again for somebody in the back, because they kind of people please, and I need somebody to hear that right now. Like,
not everybody's your friend.
and everybody is not supposed to be your friend. No. Like, it's okay for some people, like you were saying, like, we can be cool. I respect what you do. We just don't vibe. We just don't gel. And that's fine. I can support you. Yeah, rah, rah. It doesn't have to be that, like, oh, I don't like you. No, we just don't meet. Our truths our paths aren't crossing. And even with family members, like you said, loving from a distance, that's a real thing. Those boundaries are like, okay.
And I've really found that space when space is given and distance, loving from a distance, there's people that have come back around, and it's like in more of a mature, like there are better boundaries, you know, because I have such a fear of abandonment. It's like, okay, well, it's okay. Like if they choose to come back or not, I'm going to stay here in my centered self and work on these boundaries, you know, and when they do come back around, you know, I pray that it will be healthier. And there has been instances of that. So, you know, because I'm ultimately definitely a, you know, peace, love kind of woman where I'm just like, can we just be friends? You know, I'm always going to be like wanting that, you know, and that's good, you know, my heart's always full and wanting to be loving. But yeah, the warrior within is definitely what I've been working on too. So got to protect yourself.
Got to. And like you said, it's that duality. It's that knowing that, like, I always be telling people, you can get peace, love, and namaste, or you can get Newports and Coke 45. It's your choice, because the wolf is in there.
Yeah.
I just have her tamed. You know what I mean? So it depends, like, it's those boundaries though. Like I have to know, like, I don't want the wolf to come out, so I have to set up X, Y, and Z boundaries. And if you cross those, I'm just like, okay, I'm good. I have to step back. But going on to something you said about, you know, a lot of women have this, I find a lot of women do have this issue of like standing up for themselves. And I think because in this society, we're taught to be nice and like everybody. Like everyone has to like us. Little girls are told everybody has to like you. And we grow up into adulthood thinking, taking out that same thing. So when it comes to speaking our truth, like it becomes very hard and stagnant.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's where I, you know, want to embody more of that masculine energy. And I see some of these guys that are just like, fuck it. Like, I don't give a fuck if you like me, you know. I'm just like, wow, like, really? Like, I mean, you know, it's like almost like a death for me when somebody like feels a certain way, you know. But it's definitely come a long way, you know. I mean, I had issues with girl relationships for a while growing up, and now that's like way different. Now I have like such strong sisterhood in my life, and I'm so grateful that has transcended. And now it seems like I'm working more on like romantic relationships and relationships with men, if I can trust them again. But women, I'm finding that I'm wanting to bring women together with women's circles is a lot of my focus now too. Doing dance circles with women, healing our wounds, feeling like we can be ourselves, feeling safe to say no to each other. We don't always have to apologize for everything. You know?
Exactly.
I hear women saying, "Oh, I'm sorry." I'm like, girl, like you're fine. Like you don't need to apologize. You know, just be you. You know.
Yes, it's changing the language and changing the narrative. You know what I mean? And I feel like everyone has this story, right, of like how we like either go to the right or go to the left, like become as a fork in the road, where you start doing the work and then it becomes very apparent that either you go to the right and you're going to the right, like this is that pill that's going to change your life. You're going to have to step up and show up for your life, or you could kind of like do a little bit here and there and like make it and still be, you know, living that life that really isn't yours. So when you, like, I know how my junction was. It was like, oh my God. Yeah. So when you got to that crossing the roads, what did that look like?
Oh my gosh. It was brutal, actually. It was great, but the change was challenging to make that fork and to choose a totally different path than what a lot of my family members were doing. And so it was after I graduated college. I went to school and studied acting. I did acting all my life. I got a BFA in acting in New York, lived in New York City, had an agent. But I knew that it wasn't for me, like living in New York City, like the lifestyle, the hustling and everything. I was like, I fell in love with yoga in high school, or college actually, and that started to really shift things for me when I was like, oh, I think I want to teach this. I think I want to go more into the spirituality of things. Like I felt like a void that needed to be filled there, that I needed to like do some deep self-searching. And so when I moved to New York City, I ended up meeting a tribe that was sitting with plant medicine and ayahuasca. And so I took ayahuasca, and I took a lot of it actually in 2016. And that changed my life a lot.
Ayahuasca, like, you think, like, she will let you know, like, you know nothing. She would break you down to the simplest form.
Yeah.
And the amazing part is that when people continue to go back, like, to me, that was always like, but I want more, but I want, like, and I had to stop because it was like, am I taking the lessons that she is providing with me and understanding that medicine is always with me? Did you have that experience? Because I noticed you said you were doing it. You were like, it sounds like you were on a quest.
Yes, I was. I wanted to, well, I had the opportunity, and I was really getting close with this group of people that was sitting with the medicine, and it was a beautiful experience every time. And then quickly I realized that it felt very familiar to me. So I was like, I must have done this in a past life. You know, working with medicine, leading, facilitating, like, I was like, I started to help. I started to, like, be of service and to learn about how to work with the medicine and hold space for people and singing the songs and doing the energy work. And I felt like I was naturally good at it. So there was a part of me that wanted to do it as a service, like an act of service too. But ultimately I did too much of it in that 1 year, and it did spin me out, where I wasn't grounded enough to process everything that I had experienced. And I had to come back to Georgia, and ended up living at home with my parents for a while and doing a lot of deep healing here after experiencing that. And you know, it was challenging, you know, because I really believe in the medicine, but there are things about it that people need to, you know, have the support, have somebody to process it with, a therapist, something, you know, you need to process and give space for what you've experienced, because it is a powerful, you know, Kundalini awakening. You're awake. And so my crown was like blown open, and I didn't have the grounding to, like, actually like be in the, like, present 3D world. I was like, and also living in New York City was like, like, I just couldn't handle the concrete jungle after that. After, like, sitting with that, I was like, I needed to be in nature. And that's something, you know, I think that medicine is like, I mean, I would rather sit with it again in the jungle. You know, I'd rather go somewhere down in South America where it's from. You know, if I do it again, I would rather experiencing it in that kind of setting, because it's a very and there's a lot of there's a whole tangent I could go on this medicine, but there's a lot of, like, facilitators out there. You have to be careful, like, what you're choosing. You know?
I totally agree. I feel like that aspect isn't talked about as much when we're talking about plant medicines, right? Like, that time that you need, whether if you're sitting with ayahuasca or mushrooms or even hefe, something very light, like allowing yourself to digest, because ayahuasca gives you so much. And like you said, I was just got to a point, like, I had to question, like, why am I doing these medicines? Like, what's my intention behind it? Like, am I doing it as a way to escape, or am I doing it as a way to commune with the Divine Mother? And so it's been like maybe a year and a half since I sat with her. And like you said, I'm just like, a lot of these of us, we have to be careful. I feel like we always have to remember that we are our own first healers. You know what your body needs, and we have to develop that trust. You know, sitting with yourself, like having those practices that take you back home. And so for me, like, the process of going back home, like, it changes. It's fluid and it's different and it's situational. And for me right now, going home looks like seclusion. It looks like I'm ready, like, just to, like, tune off to everything and just live and be in the actual world, that 3D world, in my body. So what does the concept, what does it look like for you to come home to yourself? What does that process look like?
I would say that anything that gets me back into my body, so dancing or yoga, tai chi, breath work, stuff that feels clearing of my mind, you know, sitting down and reading a book, you know, not getting so caught up in fantasies or in past, present thought, past or future thought. And like simple acts, making a meal for yourself,
Yes.
That's something that I'm wanting to get better at, is getting better with making really good food for myself, keeping things simple, not always turning to plant medicines or other things that will alter your way of thinking. Those are powerful tools and they're there for us. But I'm really wanting to walk into more of a life of sobriety these days, where it feels like, oh, I'm cool with my breath and my movement and just being outside in nature, keeping things simple. Like there's a inner monk inside of me that's like, I'm sure I was a monk in a past life or something, because it's just like, this totally suits me, not having the hair, being more minimalist with things and stuff like that. It's just coming back to just a simple way of being.
Yes. And I feel like we disregard the importance of like coming into our bodies. Like a lot of people, they don't know what feeling their bodies feels like. And like when you give that to them through breath work, or not even give that to them, I don't think we give it anyone anything, but when we hold the space for them to explore their bodies and their breath in different ways. Like I remember the first time I felt my body and it was like, I feel this breath, this thing that's behind this suit that's inside. And like, but I can notice things. So who's that person? Like peeling back these layers, you know what I mean? So that breath is like, it's something else.
It is something else. And people are not attuned with breathing deeply. I was at a yoga class the other day, and I was like, the yoga teacher, the breath work was really starting to I was like, you aren't breathing deeply enough. It was like, chest breathing. I was like, you need to breathe down. Like it's not relaxing the body. It's causing more stress in the body. And I was like feeling it energetically. I was like, I was like, okay, just stay in my bubble, Anna. Like, just stay in my breath, but breathing down to the belly, a lot of people don't know how to do that.
They don't. And like you said, that chest breathing creates anxiety and angst in the body, while deep belly breathing actually calms us down and centers us.
Yep. And when I feel like, a lot of people are in the fight or flight mode.
Yes.
So that is to do with the breath. If you slow down your breath, you can slow down that nervous system, or freeze mode too, which I think that's something I struggle with. It's freezing. Be like, I don't know what to do. Conflict.
Exactly. I'm like, okay. Right. Like, I'll see you later. Bye. But like facing that one, like, how do you face those moments? Because I always feel like I've been in a situation where I have to like speak my truth, even when my lips quiver, and I can hear my voice like going up that octave. So how do you like move into those situations?
Honestly, that is something that I am learning to master myself. It's definitely something that I feel like I keep like failing at every single time the conflict comes up.
It keeps coming up.
Dang it! But I think I think it's again comes back into self-love. I remember that I love myself and I believe in myself, and I believe that my my thoughts and feelings have value and they are important to share. Often I'll shut down, like the throat chakra. I'll be like, I can't get my voice out because I don't like conflict, because I fear attack, because I end up just crying or bursting out in rage and just being like, oh, now I'm the crazy person. And because I've dealt with gaslighting before and manipulation, narcissistic behavior, stuff like that. It's hard when you feel like, nothing that I say is gonna like change their mind. But you have to remember that it's not ultimately about changing anybody. It's about expressing yourself and feeling good about that. Just speaking your truth. It's not about anybody being right or wrong. It's just being like, this is how I really feel. I'm not going to change myself because you're feeling differently. I need to say exactly how I feel. And that's something I'm really working on, because I'll often, shape shift and be like, oh yeah, no, it's cool. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, recently, having to step up to saying things and learning to come back to the breath, so that I'm learning to neutralize whatever I say, so it's not in a heated way.
Yes.
It's not easy, and we're human, and that happens,
and we're gonna make mistakes.
Yeah, we're gonna,
and it's not even make mistakes. It's just like things meant to happen to help build you to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
And like we have to look, like you said, we have to look at them different. And there's one thing that you said. You talked about, I can't remember, it like slipped my mind, that I wanted to hit a point, because what was it? It'll come back later. If it's meant to be spoken on, it'll come back later. So I always think like, I know the things that I'm doing are going to impact, like if I have children, my nieces and nephews, like I can see it changing the relationship with my mother. And so I always think like, if I were an ancestor, what would be some wisdom I would give myself like in this moment? So I am asking that question to you. If you were an ancestor, what would be, like looking at everything, what would be some advice that you say, hey, Anne-Marie, like,
I love that. Yeah. Now I just have like a picture of me being like an ancestor. like
Given wisdom.
Yes. I actually had a dream. In this dream, I remember felt like an ancestor was speaking to me, and she said to me, slow down. You need to slow down. Like, it's okay. I think, multitasking is too much these days. I'm trying to do all these things. I'm getting distracted by, certain things on my phone, like looking over the same things over and over again. But I need to just reset myself, where I just put the phone down and I lay down, actually let my body rest for a moment. Allow myself to clear first before making a move, because I need inspiration to lead me. I don't need fear to lead me to doing things.
Can you say that one more time? Because I say that one more time.
Yes. We do not need fear to lead us. We need that inspiration, the divine, the flow, the fun, the joy.
Yes. The flow, because it comes in. And that's like alignment. Like people are like I can do things that help me bring it back to alignment, but alignment I'm learning is this flow. It's just like push and pull of like lessons and understanding and digestion. It's like, oh, okay, well, like I can give my body rest right now. I call it a pause for the cause. And I preach about it, but it's like, are you really doing it? Now I have someone hold me accountable, accountable. Did you take a pause for the cause today? I'm like, well, check me on my shit. Okay, let me go lay down in a corner, and then get up. And it's this beautiful dance of like learning. I always say we're always dancing with something. And I remember I came up with this concept. I was at a ceremony and I had no idea what to expect. I had just had Kambo done. And so, that was like she was like, you need to work with your womb. And I just started doing this womb work. And that was 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. And I remember being in this room full of women and we were doing cacao and mushrooms and I didn't know what to expect. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to dance with fear. I'm just going to take her by the hand and we going to dance. And so now, whenever I feel this emotion, I'm like, I don't know the steps. I don't know what we doing, but I'm dancing with it. I'm like, okay. Like at first I'm in the corner, like, I don't know. And then they're just like, no, you going to dance. And sometimes it's fear, anxiety. Sometimes it's grace. And when grace comes in, grace is like the sweetest love partner. Like, let me dance with you all night.
That's what Anna means. Anna means grace.
Really?
Yeah. I love Grace.
Grace is like, she's like everything. But I noticed with the different dance partners, I just have to like, it's a flow. So right now, what is something that you're dancing with?
Fire. Yeah. I am. There's a lot of projects and passions that I have. And right now I have a lot of irons in the fire where I'm learning to, all right, spirit, like what am I feeling called to really put my energy into today, and focusing, like even doing some meditations with looking into the candle. Like I got my candle back here. Like I love fire. I love the energy of fire. But like really giving that focus to not letting the fire just burn everything down, but seeing it contained, having it be more, really focused and utilized to the utmost, so that I can create and finally see through some projects that I've been trying to see through, because it's challenging when you have so many different talents and you want to do all these things, to actually like go through with all of them.
Yes.
And so yeah, I'm like circling around. I'm like, okay, this one, la, la, la.
Exactly. And you're like, okay, I want to do this. And then one day I'll be focused, like I'm gonna write this book, I'm gonna sit down, and then like a couple days later I'm just like, but this one right here.
So it's a balance between the discipline and the flow, because
that's a whole word. That's a whole episode.
Yes, it is.
I'm just like, you talking to me right now. You're talking to me like, you need to hear this. I'm taking this medicine in, so go ahead and preach to me. Give me this medicine.
No, recently that's why I've been getting back into that masculine, because I'm like, okay, I need a little bit more routine,
Yes.
I didn't have a steady job for a while with the quarantine and everything with the COVID, and that was beautiful. I went on a trip. I went across the country. I had a whole freedom experience. But at the end of the day, having more of a set schedule is very important for me as well, because it feels like if I have like an idea of like a time of like, oh, I have this time slot to actually work on this thing, X, Y, and Z, then that is when I know, like, I need to get this done, because I know I have to work this other job and it's going to take up this amount of time. So I need to do this right now. And having like a disciplined, like spiritual practice in the morning, like I think that's super key to set up your day properly, so that you feel like, oh, I'm actually going to do these things. If you wake up early in the morning and you meditate and you do your practices, but also at the same time, it's like, women are very different than men, where we are not really supposed to be linear. Like if we don't wake up every day at like 5 a.m., that isn't as easy for us to do as it is for maybe a man, because they are on the ladder. We are cyclical every month with how we have our cycles. We go through these seasons every month. So you just got to remember that be kind and patient with yourself throughout the process. Know that you're like, you have the intentions behind things. And so just being patient with the process, and still holding yourself to that standard of like, okay, well, let me just sit here for 5 minutes at least. It may not be 20 minutes or, however long, but let me just sit here. Let me do what I can to at least get myself back into center. It's not always going to be the same thing every day.
Exactly.
And that's the beauty of it. That's the flow part, where you have to like, you have to honor your creativity, your impulses. When something comes up, you're like, oh, I got to go for this right now. Like this cannot wait. So I'm going to do this right now. So it's having the brave part, the fire part, to actually see it through, but trusting that if it changes, that's okay. I
love that. And like you said, understanding that everything is in cycles. We move in cycles. We release in cycles. And I think for me, I know learning my cycle, I have been able to pay attention to the times I'm most creative, to the times of the month where it's like, I can be in that flow of like that discipline, and like really studying that has helped me understand myself. And I feel like I made a post today, like we need to normalize our cycles. These are beautiful things. I recently, so I'm a believer, I use a lot of CBD for my cycles instead of like Motrin or whatnot. And as a youth, I just suffocated my womb. I suffocated her with Motrin and Tylenol and different things to like push her down. And as an adult, being able to like nurture her and ask her to come in and guide me and say like, what do you need? Just seeing the difference in my cycles has been like, oh yeah, I forgot I'm magic. Like, I forgot. Like, we're real life magic out here walking, regardless, women or men, but especially like women, we have that magic every month. We get to recreate ourselves, like literally. Like, you don't like that version that was 30 days ago? Let it loose, girl.
Right.
Yes. Like, glow in it, move in it, recreate her, dance, and wind that thing up. Like,
Yeah. It's and having just the understanding that sometimes you're not in your summer season. You're not always going to be in that discipline. I'm about to go into my winter phase next weekend. Like, I'm about to start, my cycle. So it's just like, okay, now it's time to slow down. Now it's time to like not be doing too much, not be going out, just take time for myself soon. And that is an important thing, because then you got to recharge yourself to prepare for the next cycle, for what
exactly.
So it's a beautiful wisdom that a lot of women that I want to teach, a lot of young women I would love to teach about that with their bodies and honoring that time. And even women coming together to empower each other, remind each other that, we can be soft and we can take breaks and we can lay down and we can hold each other and we can support each other. Ultimately, my biggest goal is to have a women's temple. So I want a space where it's just only women in a space to heal. There's just not a lot of safe spaces for that kind of divine feminine energy. I mean,
it's not. And like you said, the ability and knowing that we can be soft around each other, that we can be soft to other people. Like, of course, we need to like be careful who we're soft around with. But when we're around women, like knowing that you're going to this space and I can be soft, I can be vulnerable, I'm going to be held and supported and nurtured. Like, that will start to change the way that we engage with life and with passion and with projects and like all these things. So tell us a little bit about like what it is that you do in some of your offerings.
Okay, so with the Women's Circle, it's crazy. I just like had a dream about it last night that I was teaching some young women at a high school. I was teaching them belly dancing. At the offerings that I just had a spring equinox ceremony, and I like to guide women through dancing and yoga together. I like to put those two together because dancing is the feminine, yoga is more masculine. So having those two come together, I think, is a really powerful practice. What I do in my everyday practice, and then also opening up women vocally. So allowing sound to be released, allowing people to, scream, making noises, shaking out the body, and then having space for women to come together and have a community to get to know each other, to feel that support within each other, to make new friends. And it's a diverse group of women. Like, I am very much about that. I love diversity. I'm a diverse woman. I'm a mixed woman. So I love to have that in the air. And also I do body work as well. I love to do Reiki, and I'm skilled in Thai massage and do kind of sensual massage work. So that is something that also is helpful to bring people back into their bodies as well. But right now I'm really focused on having more women's circles, more gatherings for creativity, for sensual expression. We did some painting outside in the sun. We shared some food underneath the sun, being out in nature together, like the simple things, like, that feels like it's like such a, like, it's crazy, like how it's lost. Like, I'm like, wow, like, I'm so happy. And I get such great responses from the women. They love it. I'm like, oh, wow. Like, I'm so happy to be opening up the doors for this kind of energy to come together. And for it to be a safe space for women to feel okay to like express themselves and be who they are, and just allowing them to let down some of those walls, I know a lot of women have a hard time trusting other women too. So
based off experiences, because I related to you when you were talking about that. Like, growing up, I kind of had strained relationships with women. I was always changing friends. I was one of those. So I was always like changing friends. When they get too close, I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna grab another friend, just another friend. And so I would never allow myself to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And then for a while, like, I think it's easy sometimes as women to, I noticed this when I was holding space for people. I was like, oh, I'm not being vulnerable. Mm-hmm. I'm really trauma bonding. Mm-hmm. I'm sharing trauma. Mm-hmm. And we are connecting. And that was a real thing for me. And so I had to like step back from some of the work and like work on that, and just realizing that, like, I think when it comes to like holding space, I think for me, I'm always realizing that like I'm just holding the space. You guys are doing the work, but like my work doesn't stop. Mm-hmm. Like it has to be this continuation of like me stepping in, stepping out when I feel like I'm in this space where I can't offer. And like I was saying earlier, like feeling like I need to be secluded. But to me, it goes back, it's kind of leading to one of my last questions. And for me, I feel like life is always giving us medicine. And sometimes it's really bitter. It's that bitter herb. It's that ashwagandha. And it makes you like, I don't want to take it. I don't want to take it. And sometimes it's like the sweetest honey. Ooh, like I want some more. Can I please have some more? And we don't get to pick what medicine we get. We just have to try to ingest it and learn, because every lesson leads to a choice. Every choice leads to a better way that we can live our lives, right? Like these are just stepping stones and cycles. So what medicine is life serving up for you right now? And what does that feel and look like in your physical and spiritual body?
Oh, I would say seclusion, actually. Being alone, being in with just myself. I'm somebody that really enjoys having the presence of other people in my life. At the same time, I know when I need my space and I take it, but I'm not always wanting to be there that long. I'm like, can I get a friend up in here? Like, I, especially after being in a relationship where I was, with that person for almost a year, and we were with each other a lot, and that was like a very comforting thing for me. Sharing a meal with people and watching television and movies. Like I don't do those things like by myself as well. Like I just don't really, and I think that it's also about, being good with myself, but reaching out when I do need that support, because a lot of people won't reach out. They think they have to stay in the seclusion, like it's a punishment, and it's
exactly
not. Yeah,
you can go. That's that flow.
Yeah,
you can go in and out of it when needed, and know like, okay, I'm gonna seclude myself and do my mirror work, because I'm a big mirror work person.
Oh yes, me too. Yeah.
Look, I'm like, girl, let's go to the mirror. Like we need to have a conversation. And I'm sitting there talking back and forth. And then I'll be like, I love you. And I'll like kiss the mirror. And I'm just like, okay, this is too much. But it's really not. Like you have to have those moments.
Yes.
And like I said, especially after a long-term relationship. I was in a long-term relationship, and like you said, with that person a lot, we were together for many years. And I had to I was like, okay, I'm going into this cave of self right now. And this is important that I just, even when the urge to call someone came up, I'd be like, am I calling them because I'm bored, or am I calling them because I really need them to hold space for me? And that's a question I still ask myself when I do things like, what's my why? And that's a hard thing, but it's so necessary.
Yeah, I feel it's important that I check in with my energy levels, because if I am feeling really tired and not up for communing with others, I really need to take time for myself, because I will, ultimately, because I'm such a giver, I will, not feel great about being in other people's presence. Like obviously, if you're tired, I'm just like, I'm losing myself here, because I can lose myself in people. That's an easy thing for me to do. So it's just about the balance of it, really. Okay, have I taken time for myself? Do I especially the biggest thing is I'm always I need to create some art. If I haven't done that today and I've had that time with myself, I start to get antsy. I'm like, I need to go out and be by myself, So I definitely make sure I take time to be doing my practices and stay in my art and staying with my work, so that feels good before I start hanging out with other people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I love how you said it's a practice. I feel like that's so important. Like people have to understand these are practices. And when we look at it from that aspect, I know recently I was one of those, like, I'm a type A person sometimes. So like, so when you were saying those things, like being gentle with yourself, it was like my remembrance. Like you gave that to me and I was like, yeah, Brie, like you can be gentle. Like every morning doesn't have to be the same. But like when we look at it, like it's a practice, it's never a final test. There's never every day is a practice. So how can you show up more fully, more present, more juicy? I love that word. I don't know why. It's like it's my jam. Like how can I show up more in that way?
Yeah, I feel like just alive, you just saying those words, you know, because that is it. That's the key. That is the key. How can we be the most authentic? And that is that is why I love my free to be mentality, because it is like, oh, I'm pissed. All right, let me dive into that anger. Let me dive into that fire. Oh, I'm sad. Oh, let me cry all these tears out.
Yes.
You know? Let me just go
feeling it.
Feel it, you know?
It's so important.
Yes, it is. Oh.
Some people don't get that. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I have to feel it first. But I'm learning. This is not easy for me. I'm learning how to feel it, but not get so caught up in it. Like let it envelop me. But like have that flow to be like, I'm gonna feel it and now I'm gonna float and shift out of it.
Yeah, it's an art form. It really is.
It is.
It's an art.
I love how you said it. It is an art. It is a art.
Yeah.
And sometimes my pavement is beautiful. I'm like, ooh, I was flowing today. And sometimes it's like, you got stuck.
But it's subjective. Like art is subjective. Like your life is a masterpiece, and nobody, like, you know, like that's just where you come back to your inner child and you're just like, oh, right. Like it doesn't matter. Like nobody's judging me, you know, or maybe they are, but that doesn't matter because it's like, I'm not judging myself. Like this is for myself. This is my relationship with God. This is how I'm expressing myself. And if I'm stuck, I'm stuck. If I'm flowing, I'm flowing, you know, and that is the unconditional love that you have to have in order to find that freedom. You know, the freedom, you know, and the freedom even in the everyday, like everyday tasks, you know, it does not necessarily mean you have to go off and like quit your job and go travel the world. That's not, I mean, and you know, you could, the grass is always greener on the other side. But if you can feel free to be yourself in a corporate position, that is amazing, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And like own it. And like, I think we have to create these concepts and definitions for ourselves. Like, what does freedom look like? What does that feel like, and even taste like for you? Like, what does that, like, when you think of that, what does that embody? And it's going to be different to all of us. But I feel like when we can label those things very clearly, then it helps us to know and be aware of like, oh, I'm stepping into freedom. I'm stepping into liberation. Like these things bring that out in me. So let me try to circle more things like that around me, but not going by like my culture, society, or like familiar, like all these different expectations. Like, no, I can literally, and I can change the definition tomorrow. God damn it.
Yes. You are the creator of your reality too. I believe in co-creation.
Yes. Same here. We just like I might like me some Palo Santo because this was just I knew. It's so funny. Like I always know like those people that I interview that I'm like, oh yeah, there's so much, like there's some juiciness, there's some magic happening right there. So thank you for a lot of that wisdom.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I'm so grateful. This is my first podcast experience. So I'm like looking to do more. I'm looking to manifest more of these opportunities because this is a great way to like really speak about things that I've been wanting to speak about, you know? Using my voice more.
Exactly. That practice. Like that's you're exercising that practice of like that throat chakra. And that's a beautiful thing. I think like when we do speak our truth, like it alivens something in us. It's like talking to that knowing that lives deep down in each of us. Like when we talk more, we're empowering that knowing to like want to share more. Like, oh, you're sharing? Okay, let's push some more up. Let's give her some more of that sweet medicine instead of that bitter medicine that keeps you in those loops.
Yes.
But you need the bitter. You need the bitter because it breaks down everything. But anyway, girl, we gonna be up here for a minute. So I just want to thank you so much for sitting down with me in ceremony. And if anyone wants to find you, like what's your website, if you have one, your social media links, and that'll also be in the show notes as well. But you can go ahead and share now.
Yeah, you can find me. I do a lot of posting on Instagram, so you can find me at Free to Be Anna Marie. And you can also find me on my website, www.freetobeannamarie.com. And I'm looking to also put more stuff out on YouTube. So looking forward to that as well.
Yeah.
Yes, transitioning more to YouTube world. So
I feel like for me, that feels safer. I don't know why. Like it's starting to feel a little bit safer because I feel the need so much, like just to pull away from like all social media. Like it's not, the tools are great and they've connected me a lot to people, like especially Instagram has connected me, and Facebook too, you know. But I feel like there's a quality now, like that I'm wanting to put out that's, you know, kind of up the game a little bit more, you know? Yeah. So I'm like, all right, let me get a nicer camera. Let me like, you know, So stay tuned. I'm excited. Yes. Well, I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and remember, healing is your birthright. Recreation is the tool. Peace.